I work with a lot of clients who give a lot of thought and effort into the change that they want to make within their organization to accomplish the strategy that they've defined. And it could be something as simple as I need people to get along better, or it could be I want to grow 20% over the next 3 years. Once you've defined that strategy and you've communicated it and you've given all the thought into what does the team need to look like to get you there, and then what does the culture really need to be to achieve that goal, I see certain things happen. So remember, change isn't about discipline, it's about the design. It's actually having a plan in place that's going to help you achieve what it is you need to achieve. I have a client who is really struggling to get that next job. And I found another coach for her who had been a recruiter and has now turned into I'm going to help people in that later in life space find the ideal job. And so she has a really strong plan of action of how to help them do that. And I had that person say to me a couple weeks into working with that coach, she's not like you. We're not brainstorming. We're not doing the things. I'm being asked to truly work the plan. And I looked at her and I said, can you trust the plan? And so it became a little bit of a joke for about 4 or 6 weeks. She was supposed to hit a target number of job applications. And when she hit that target number, all of the things that coach said were supposed to happen. Well, interestingly enough, this week she got within two of that number. And guess what? The plan is working. So I highly encourage you to design your habits, your environment, and your support system. So if you're making a big change, have the people around you that you need to help you execute against your plan. Because if you don't do that, default will decide your plan. So let me say that to you again succinctly. Design your habits, your environment, and your support system, or else default will decide for you what your plan is. The other thing that I've noticed when I'm talking to people is that leaders don't drift because they're lazy from their plan. They drift because of wiring. We as human beings are wired to fall into what's familiar, what's comfortable, what we have always done. And how many of you would say that growth is where the challenge is versus growth is where I'm doing what I've always done? So I'm going to challenge you with that a little bit, but understand under pressure, your brain defaults to what's familiar. And oftentimes, this is what trips us up. And that's not failure at all. It's a signal to reinforce the new pattern. If you have self awareness, which we know I talk about all the time, so I'm not going to go there, but if you can catch yourself falling back into old patterns, it's an opportunity to stop and pause and say, why am I doing this? Do I have a better choice to make? And what is it my new design or my new plan really requires me to do? So, again, under pressure, the brain defaults to the familiar, not to the new, and definitely not to the challenge of executing against this really well-defined plan. And another thing that I want you to consider is oftentimes I get, well, it was a small relapse. I'll recover from that. The truth is, a small drift from your plan today can create a major misalignment tomorrow. Did you know a 5% drift in your habits becomes a 50% misalignment in 3 months, especially without accountability? So think about that. How many of you have spent 3, 6 months putting a plan in place, with your consultant or your team, knowing that you have an expectation of in 3 or 6 months from now to have a completely different culture, a completely different initiative, a completely different team. And you roll it all out and you hit a stress point. There's an intense meeting and you kick back into the norm. That misalignment may trigger a 50% misalignment in 3 months. So I really encourage you to work on all those self-awareness and self-management traits, especially as you're rolling out your new initiatives, because you're not just changing habits, you're rebuilding your identity, you're rebuilding your culture, and more importantly, you are rebuilding your team's culture and your team's identity. Stop managing behavior. Start reinforcing who you want to become and the culture you want to have around you. One behavior, one conversation at a time. Intentional behavior, intentional conversations. Think before you speak. Slow down to speed up. Because remember, insight without reinforcement is just inspiration. And you can be inspirational today and have no change tomorrow. So remember, reinforce, reinforce, reinforce. And inspiration doesn't scale. Structure and reinforcement does. And by scale, I mean change behavior. If you roll something out today, you want to gain momentum. And if you are not reinforcing it, you are not achieving the momentum you want. And without that momentum, you are not going to achieve the goal that you have set out for you, your team, your organization. I hope you've liked this video. I would love to hear your comments. I'd love to hear where you maybe didn't follow through and what you could have done differently in the comments below. Please like and subscribe so that you can get my next video. Have your best day ever.